Hey, what's your biggest fear as a dungeon master or games master? Is it that because of you, your players are bored and have a bad time? If so, you're going to want to watch this. Let's get started. Hey, Scott here from vengerstecks.com. I hope you're all good. So just the other day, I ran a poll across Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Reddit and Discord. The question was the one I posed at the start there. What's your biggest fear as a dungeon master or game master? Overwhelmingly, the response was this: being at fault for your players thinking the game sucks. Response after response came back loud and clear that dungeon masters and games masters across the world feel this major responsibility to get it right, to not mess up, to be the one person in charge of fun at the table. I'm here to tell you today that although that feeling might be real, it's totally misplaced. It's not supported by how the game should be played. And I'm here to tell you first why it is that that fear is misplaced, and second, how to get over that fear. So here's my take. First things first, what happens in your tabletop role-playing game shouldn't be on you. I mean, yeah, you sit on what you might think is a big chair, you've read the rules, you've planned the story arcs, thought about what might happen before each session, but the game's not yours. It belongs to you and your players. You all have a role to play. Your role is to present the hooks, the conflicts, to tee up the players, to outline the picture they need to go out and paint, and so on. And then it's over to your players, albeit with your ongoing input, to make a story about what you present. A story that both you and they will remember forever because you all had a very large hand in how it went down. In short, you need to let go a bit. Easier said, right? But if you're twisting yourself in knots trying to carve out story arcs that would fit snugly into a Shakespearean tragedy, you need to think a little differently. You ain't writing a book here. You need to think about the game not as something that would look breathtaking on paper, not as a reflection of your writing chops, and rather as a living, breathing creation that matures and refines and evolves and surprises in every single moment you all get together. And yeah, you need to get comfortable with the idea that no matter how much you prep, chaos will always find its way into the fabric of your story and rip its sturdy linear structure the hell to shreds, as it should. How amazing would it be, right, if this intricate story, this tale of highs and lows that you and your players develop over time, is one that you could all look back on and think, geez, how the heck did that happen? Why should you, as the dungeon or games master, miss out on the surprise? But I get it. Over the years, the way the game's been played has changed. In D&D and the other tabletop role-playing games that followed, let's face it, the game's matured. Players of today want more from their time at the table. They want immersion. They want story arcs. They want entertainment and fun and heartbreak and drama and more. And they want this from the moment they sit at the table until the last dice are rolled. But crucially, they want this from the dungeon master or games master. And this is where the fear has arisen. Now, I love online streaming and online content as much as the other dude. But to my mind, it's this perpetual content that's given strength and weight to the expectation. I've watched over the years as certain dungeon masters or games masters in popular games, like Mercer, or Colville, or Perkins, despite, to be fair to them, any objections on their part, have become almost idolised and heralded as the one mainly responsible for the dazzling amazingness of their game. Every week I breathe in screeds of blogs and posts and streams and more that, for myriad reasons, appear to raise the dungeon or games master on a higher pedestal than the other players. Moving a step back though, looking at the actual people behind all the blogs and posts and streams, the fundamental organisms of their evolution were modules. Thinking only about D&D, TSR, Tactical Studies Rules, the company given birth in 1973 by Gary Gygax and Don Kay, were the first to take adventures and scenarios that had been played out in D&D tournaments in the US and publish them as modules. And so we were gifted classics like Temple of the Frog, Wee Warriors, Palace of the Vampire Queen, Keep in the Borderlands, Tomb of Horrors, and Temple of Elemental Evil. Fantastic adventures that I definitely recommend you try out, and which paved the way for the more recent Uber adventure modules like Curse of Strahd, Baldur's Gate, Descent into Avernus, Icewind Dale, Rime of the Frost Maiden. It's also happened in other tabletop RPGs. But although the work in all these published modules and adventures has been truly magnificent, think about how that's come across over the years to dungeon masters and games masters. Think about all the writing that's gone into a module. Maps, NPCs, plots, monsters, stat blocks, the whole kit and caboodle, all written down there in black and white with breathtaking artwork and compiled expertly by huge teams of professional games designers. And now think of what that's implied for dungeon and games masters thinking about running their own game. All right, so the players want me to run this game. They don't want a module this time. So the last module we played had all this stuff in it. I guess we'll need to come up with the same stuff for my own campaign. All that world building stuff. If the players ask me about anything, I'll need to have it prepared. Because if I don't have it prepared and the game sucks, it'll be my fault. And so it's this very same expectation which has led swathes of new and even seasoned dungeon and games masters to freeze in terror at the thought of messing up, to handle the weight of this expectation by planning every last detail of their coming sessions and campaigns, because they feel that it's all on them. And the more they plan, the more intricate stories they write for the players before even anyone's sat down at the table, the more likely it's become for the introduction of chaos to completely stress out these dungeon and game masters, as they turn cartwheels trying to squeeze everything into what else they had planned. I mean, if something that happens hasn't been written down and prepared, it ain't fair on them, it ain't fair on the players, and it definitely ain't necessary. But right now, it is what it is. So how to get rid of the fear? My number one golden recommendation that I want you to think about is this. You don't need to get rid of the fear. But wait, I'll come back to that. Second thing to think about is pretty simple. Talk to your players. And I mean really talk. At session 0 before the game begins and regularly throughout the game between sessions. In doing this, not only are you finding out what their goals are, what they're looking for in the game, how they're enjoying it so far, what they'd like to change. Even more importantly, you're giving yourself the opportunity to do the same, to put across how you're finding it. It's not a one-way conversation. If you're getting the fear that they're not enjoying it, if that fear is getting the hell in the way of you enjoying the game, tell them. Maybe they'll come back to you, much to your surprise, with positive feedback, a few comments that dispel your fears and reinforce for you that actually you're doing a great job, that they're just glad that it's you and not them sitting in the big chair. But if the comments you get back aren't as positive, ask them what they'd like you to do to switch things up, what positive steps you could take to make the experience more enjoyable for them. But don't stop there. Remember, two-way conversation. Try not to take any comments like this personally, as it's just words, just their opinion. Part of dispelling the fear as a dungeon master or games master is about taking every comment you pick up, good or bad, and learning from it in a way that makes you comfortable. If the suggestions you get from a player make you feel uneasy, tell them. Talk to them about the things they want from the game and how you feel your approach will help them achieve this. If anything needs adjusted, seek an understanding in this. Listen to what they're saying. Make sure your own voice is being heard and work with them on how it's going to look in future sessions. And remember, it's just a game. It's everyone's game. It's not just yours. So if you're anxious about not getting the rules right and one of your players knows them off by heart, tell everyone, look guys, I'm not all that in the rules. So let's defer to Dave on this as long as I've got a final say, right? If you're anxious about not meeting the players' expectations, don't just guess at all this. Don't leave it to chance. Talk to your players. Tell them what you're thinking. Ask them regularly, how's this working out for you? I mean, see, when it comes to fear, in the end, I've found that it comes down to fear of the unknown. If you don't know what people are thinking, if you're anxious that they're not having a good time, the best way of resolving this fear is communication. Not sure what they're thinking? Ask them. Not sure if they think the game sucks? Ask them. And in the process of that ongoing conversation, you'll find that together, collaboratively, you'll stand a much better chance of building something everyone at the table is happy with. And with that regular input from everyone at the table, you'll stand, again, a much better chance of feeling less responsible, of fearing that because of you, the game sucks. In the end, what's the big deal? Trust me on this, you don't need to come across as God. You don't need to know everything. You don't need to improv like a master to feel responsible for everyone's fun. I mean, I started running games in the 1980s and I still get the fear. More than likely it's because I still mess up. Sometimes I get the rules wrong. Sometimes I miss an embarrassingly obvious thing that ends up making a huge difference to what happens in the game. Sometimes my encounters fall flat. Sometimes I sit there as DM or GM, watching my players, picking up their micro expressions, thinking, man, they're not having a blast. What the hell should I do? But you know what? Every single week, my players come back to the table. Yeah, I've had groups of players that just haven't worked out or where life's got in the way of the game. But more often than not, all that fear I've had, it's just not played out. I just keep talking to the players, listening to them, making my voice heard and matching their own expectations. And yeah, the fact that players keep on rocking up to the table despite my fears that they're not having a great time is proof, solid gold evidence that at the end of the day, my players just want to have a great time. And that if they weren't having a great time, they wouldn't be sitting there with huge grins desperate for the game to begin. They wouldn't be yapping about it in between sessions. They wouldn't be firing over ideas or questions or character art or all that stuff every single week. So yeah, just as it's not solely on you to make sure the players are having a great time, it's definitely not on you alone to make sure you're having a great time. Yeah, reflect regularly on how you feel you're doing. Always look to improve. But more importantly, communicate. Make sure it's a two-way conversation. Seek out criticism, and rather than using it to judge or scold yourself as a person, try and use it to learn and develop as a DM or GM. And yeah, you might still have that fear, just like I do. You might still be your harshest critic, but in time, it will crush your joy and your creativity less and less, leaving you the peace to experience this amazing game as it was designed. So thanks for watching. If you like this, hit subscribe and spread the word. I'd love to hear about your fears as a dungeon master or games master. So hit me up online at Venger's Decks and have a great day.